Okie dokie. Coraline is one of those movies I've seen all over the internet. It feels like people keep revisiting this childhood classic no matter how much time has passed. I remember watching part of this movie as a child, but for whatever reason I never finished it and forgot until it started coming back into the public eye. So, let's rectify that. What makes Coraline so beloved? For those who don't know, Coraline is a stop-motion children's movie about a young girl whose name you'll never guess. She had recently moved into a new home and, feeling neglected by her constantly working parents, she discovers a secret door that leads to a near-identical house. Inside, she finds her other parents, the only difference being that they're an idealized version of them, along with the lack of human eyes. Finding the other home to be her dream house, as she's able to eat all her favorite foods and experience the strange wonders this land contains, she starts to wonder, maybe it would be better to stay on this side of the door instead. All she needs to do is join the others, to replace her almond eyes with jet black buttons. Coraline has a great premise, a mirror world that reflects all your desires and wants while hiding the dark secrets creeping within. A perfect nightmare, if you would. As a child, we're all filled with such dreams and wonder that it's often hard for the grounded parents to keep up with them. They wish to play and have fun, while the boring adults need to work to keep a house over their head. Which is where a lot of teenage rebellion can come from, as parents have less time for their children, a natural gap forming between them as they start to understand each other less and less. The bond of a family is such a frail thing. But what if that didn't need to be the way? What if your parents could focus all their time on you? If they're always ready to play with you when you're ready, if they'll cook whatever you want with no regard to what's healthy, if they'll buy you any toys or clothes your little heart desires, that's the trap of Coraline, the veil of the idealized other world. Even now we wish for a perfect version of our current life. You're working non-stop at your 9 to 7, you either have no money or no time to do the things you actually enjoy, and it's so hard to even hang out with your friends as everyone has their own schedules. If we could take all that dissatisfaction and just cut it off, would we take it? Who wouldn't want to live in another world where everything you could ever want is served to you on a silver platter? Would you be happy? Would you enjoy every day knowing you can just sit back or do whatever you want? Would it feel real? Humans are curious creatures, and we're quick to get bored. You may wonder, how could we ever be bored of a magical wonderland where anything and everything can happen? And it's not exactly the other world that we would get bored of, but we would get used to happiness and slowly lose the feeling the longer we spent in this idealized world. We as humans need to change things up every once again. Doing the same thing over and over, even if you truly enjoy it, will eventually become boring. People always say you should turn your hobby into a job and you'll never feel like you work a day in your life. And while that is true to an extent, turning your hobby into a job means it's no longer a hobby anymore. It's a chore. You have to do this now. It's no longer a fun pastime for you to distract yourself from your day-to-day, as this is now your day-to-day. You don't have a hobby anymore, you have an obligation. I'm sure you've had that time where you're about to go do something, maybe wash the dishes or take out the trash, but then your parents ask you to do the exact same thing you're about to, and suddenly you just don't feel like doing it anymore, even though you were already planning to do so. That's the reality of turning your hobby into a job. And I think Coraline paints this in its own special way. At first, Coraline is having the time of her life, visiting a magical garden with anthropomorphic plants, watching a circus act of jumping mice, and joining into a trapeze act and letting the thrill take over. It's fun to come back to the other world every day to distract yourself from the mundanity of the real world. That is, until she's asked to stay forever. The buttons that she has to sew into her eyes is the representation of turning an occasional hobby into her entire life. Suddenly, it's not so fun anymore. Of course, our world doesn't crumble to pieces, nor do we watch our loved ones turn into spider people. That's the world of Coraline. It's a horrifying version of what happens when you have too much of a good thing. As much as you enjoy all the high moments of your life, you need the lows to make those moments all the more sweeter. You need challenge, you need stress, else you start to lose yourself in a perfect nightmare. There's some other stuff I'd like to talk about with Coraline. Mostly, I wish this was actually a horror movie. I realize I'm watching a children's film, but it makes me realize the wasted potential of animated horror. It's all live action, special effects, and CG design. You rarely see an animated horror movie in the cinema, which is so sad because the freedom that animation grants you is perfect for evoking feelings like fear. How much more terrifying could they make the monsters if they didn't have to worry about the limits of actors and technology? The visual representation we could have a character's psyche beautifully painted across our screen. There's a better video going into this. You should check out How Media Scares Us by Super Eye Patch Wolf. It's a great showcase of horror in different forms, and it has a small section about animated horror that really resonated with me and reminded me of this movie. Coraline was really fun to watch. I completely understand why so many people still love this movie. It was great to finally come back to it and watch it in its entirety. And if you're just like old me and haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and sew the button in your eye. If you want me to have my eyes ripped out and replaced with buttons, let me know in the comments below and tell me your thoughts while you're down there. Like and subscribe for more content, let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover. I like to talk about anything that interests me. That's all I want to say. I hope you all have a good rest of your day.